If you're experiencing growing pains in your business right now, chances are you're having a hard time making the distinction between what feels uncomfortable versus what's actually wrong and painful. And in today's episode, I'm going to help you discern how to know when it's time to stop, to reevaluate, and to potentially pivot your course of action, or when instead you should lean in, push through, and overcome any feelings of jumping into the unknown. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome to the Musicians Creating Prosperity podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Fabiana Claure. And in today's episode, I want to share with you one of the things that has been haunting my mind recently and looking at how our clients experience growing pains. I decided to come and bring an episode for you to help you be able to make the distinction between when should you push forward and take uncomfortable steps, but that you know are going to be in the long run necessary and beneficial, and when should you actually listen to the feeling of that growing pain and actually pause, stop, recalibrate, reevaluate, and maybe take a pivot in your course of action so that you can ensure the sustainability of your music business. So let's start with this episode. What does growing pains mean? Well, when you have reached a certain level of success in your business and you know that it took you a lot of effort to get here, right? Whether you have a successful studio, whether you have any sort of enterprise, whether it's in person or online, and you've achieved a certain level of success already, and you've proven to yourself that you can do things, that you have a service-based business, that you can offer value, that you can help clients get results, there's always going to be this initial feeling of wanting to preserve what you created, right? And feeling proud of what you built and feeling excited of the success you've been able to achieve. However, if you have been creating a model and a business that is still very much dependent on you, whether it's because you're trading your time for money or whether it's because you're still very much involved in the day-to-day operations, marketing, sales, financial management, client services aspects of your business, chances are you will reach a point where you're going to feel that you can no longer continue growing unless you reinvent yourself and you change what you're doing. But here's the catch. What got you here won't get you there. And yet, if you have achieved a level of success that you're excited about, it feels scary to be unlearning those things and learning new things. And there's a survey that I studied, and it's called the census, right? The US Census that had really gathered the data after studying over 40 years of human behavior and entrepreneurial behavior. And it found that 90% of people who achieve six-figure incomes, who get into that income bracket of making more than six figures, 90% of them don't go past six figures. They stay at that plateau simply because they are unwilling to let go of the concepts and the behaviors and the skills that got them to that stage. And yet there's 10% of people who cross the six-figure mark who actually let go of what got them there, and they're willing to unlearn what they learned to get to that first milestone in order to create new behaviors, new skills, and to learn how to delegate and to build more systems that allow people to take things off their plate and to delegate and to build more leverage in the way they work. And from that 10% of people who are willing to, in a way, relearn and pivot and reinvent themselves, 80% of those people actually are able to quantum leap their income, going from six figures to multiple six figures and even seven figures. Why is that such a stark statistic? Because of the fact that when you're willing to let go of what got you to a certain milestone, even if it feels uncomfortable, that's when you can actually create a massive breakthrough in the way you run your business. And you're actually able to grow a lot faster than initially what got you to six figures. When I started my first online business, I remember putting my first milestone as I want to reach six figures. And I remember the mentors that I had around me would tell me the hardest part is getting to six figures. Once you cross the six-figure mark, if you're willing to reinvent yourself and to adapt and continuously be in a forward motion of innovation and adaptation and change, the skills that got you to six figures, and you can reinvent those and amplify those, it's actually a lot easier for you to scale past that once you were able to learn these initial skills that got you to the first six-figure mark. And I remember thinking, are you saying that it's actually easier to make seven figures than it is to make six figures? And in a way, that was the message that I was being told, right? And now, after having made more than seven figures throughout my career as an online educator and a musician, and building businesses both in the brick and mortar space, physical music academy, as well as in the online education space, I understand what that means. What that means is you developing the ability to make that distinction between what does uncomfortable look like? And when are you experiencing growing pains that require you to pause, to take a step back, reevaluate the way you work, and potentially let go of what got you here in order to learn new skills and to do things differently? Are you willing and able to know when to make those shifts versus when you get to a point of growth and you feel uncomfortable, should you just keep going? Should you just push through the uncomfortableness and just continue carrying on the course of action that you started in the first place? Here's how I think of it. When we exercise, okay, and this is something that I'm actually trying to develop from a physiological standpoint, and I hear the coaches that I'm listening to and working through online exercise trainings, etc., constantly telling us, when you're starting to strength train or lift weights, there will be a point where you are going to feel pushed beyond your boundaries, right? Beyond your level of capacity, pushing yourself to expand your growth and to build more muscle. In a way, the muscle needs to be teared down before it can be strengthened up and built back again, right? That's just the way the physiology works of our body. There is a fine line between pushing yourself too hard when you're trying to lift weights, where you can potentially injure yourself and not be able to continue working out later on as a result of having pushed yourself out of your comfort zone to the point of creating a damaging injury, versus knowing that you're pushing yourself to try to get that one more rep in, but still keeping the form, keeping the poise, keeping the structure, making sure your body is still supporting the movement. And you're doing it in a way where you're not completely deviating from the right form to prevent injuries, right? And most of the times when we're starting to exercise, when we're starting to learn about movement and how our body works, we have to learn, when are we making these distinctions? Am I pushing myself in the right way, or am I pushing myself in the wrong way? And so that got me thinking about the work, we're doing here in this podcast and in my, movement that I'm building to help musicians create prosperity. Is how can we know? What are the things that we can tap into to really understand, at which point are we pushing ourselves in the good way and keeping the form, keeping the posture, and knowing that extra rep, that extra step that we're going to take is actually beneficial for us, even if it feels exhausting, even if we are maybe unsure or not clear if it's worth pursuing or not. And then sometimes we have decisions to make where we can tell, like, if we make that choice, it's actually not going to be in our best interest. It's not going to be good for us. And we should actually not take that step. How to know, right? It's same thing in exercise. Are you pushing yourself out of your comfort zone in a good way, because that's what your body needs to develop strength long-term, so that next time when you're pushing yourself, you can actually go beyond that and you can do 10 reps instead of 9, or you can lift 5 more pounds, right? This is where, I want you to think in the process of building your business, the best way that you can develop that awareness is by understanding how that change that you're trying to make, what is the long-term benefit of that shift that you're considering? And most of the times we're driven by short-term success, short-term results, short-term immediate gratification. If you think about that term, immediate gratification, we live in a fast-paced society. We live in a fast-paced society where everything is instant. Like the internet provides immediate information. When we Google something or we chat GPT something, we order something on Amazon, and in 2 days that thing is there. And we're always being pushed to want things immediately. And yet when it comes to building our businesses, even though it's good to want to achieve fast growth, rapid change, quick results, there are things that you need to put in place sometimes that you won't necessarily see those results immediately, but they feel uncomfortable. And because you don't understand exactly how quickly you're going to see the result, that causes you to pause and not take action. We'll be right back to today's episode in just a moment, but I wanted to share something that might really resonate with you. You've built a music business from the ground up, but here's the question. If you step away, does everything stop? If you're feeling trapped in a business that can't scale without sacrificing your quality of life, you're not alone. Most musician entrepreneurs get stuck trading time for money, drowning in daily tasks, and missing precious moments with family, all while their income stays frustratingly flat. What if there was a way to put your music business on autopilot while actually multiplying your income? That's exactly why I created the Music Business Freedom Guide. It contains 5 proven strategies that helped me transition from burnout to building 2 successful businesses with real lifestyle freedom. Inside, you'll discover how to manage your energy for maximum creativity and profit, build simple systems that run without your constant oversight, use my CEO time blocking method to eliminate overwhelm and focus only on activities that actually generate revenue. This isn't just another grow your business guide. It's about creating freedom through smart structure and systems. If you're ready to build a music business that serves your life instead of consuming it, download your free copy now, because your music and your life deserves so much more than just surviving. All right, let's get back to today's episode. So, for example, when you think about building a brand, creating content, understanding how to attract, nurture, and convert clients into your offer, right now, if you have existing clients that you're serving, right? And you're working with them in a successful way, but you are wanting to maybe upgrade the clientele that you've been serving. Maybe you want to bring in clients who are more committed to your teachings, who are more invested in the transformation that you can provide, right? Who may be willing to come in at a higher price point and in a more open way to be guided by you in a new way. And yet it may feel uncomfortable to pivot your existing client base because you already have those clients and you're safe. And you know that when you position your offers in certain ways, you can attract those clients. So it's tempting to want to continue repeating the same marketing that you have and continuing the same brand and the same messaging that gives you that perceived sense of safety and security, because you know with that messaging, with that version of your identity, you can attract certain clients. And so these are the things that you need to ask yourself when you want to reevaluate and reinvent your business and your messaging and your brand, and potentially start magnetizing other types of clients. Maybe it's in a different age group, maybe it's in a more advanced level of musicianship, or whatever it is your goal that you're trying to attract, perhaps a different type of client that is no longer going to be the exact same clients that you have. That doesn't mean you need to abandon your current clients, but what I'm helping you expand is, this is a typical example that I see, right? This tension between, I know I got to this point with the current client base that I have, but yet my growth is going to only really happen in the quantum shift that I envision my business when I can start working with a different type of client, when I can elevate my client avatar and create a different type of messaging that will attract a different caliber of client. And it takes that disruption, that temporary shift in perspective, and it feels scary. And it's easier to say, I've got this already, I can stay with what I have because it's safe, versus if I change my messaging and I evolve, I don't know how quickly I'm going to get these different types of clients, or what, how that's going to work out. But at the end of the day, if what you want is to build a business that is truly your dream business, I mean, you're only going to spend the rest of your lifetime, right, working in this, having people around you, serving this certain level of client and a certain level of transformation. You might as well aim for the moon. Why not, right? Aim for the stars, because this is what's going to allow you to experience the growth that makes your job fulfilling, that makes your day-to-day activities energy giving versus energy draining. If right now you are, let's say, content with what you have and it's giving you basic needs, it's stable, but you're feeling depleted, you're feeling that your energy is down and you're not thriving, you're feeling stagnant, chances are you're staying comfortable. So a lot of the things that I see happen when clients start wanting change but not yet taking the actions is that things start falling apart. Things start falling apart in their universe. They get fired from jobs, their students quit. Things happen that force them to take that next step of action that they were procrastinating or delaying or postponing or not wanting to take because of this relative sense of stability that they had achieved in the first place. All the time, whenever I have a new client coming into the work we do with musicians, many times I hear that they make that step, they decide to start reinventing their businesses, making some upgrades, and all of a sudden something happens. They lose their jobs or they lose their students, or something happens that causes a massive shift in the stability that they had before they made that commitment. And I always like to think of it as like, this is the universe showing you that it's time to lean in and go all in the transformation that you've been maybe dipping your toes around and just playing around with casually, and then not really going all in because you didn't want to let go of what you had. And I remember in my case, when I started this process, actually back in early 2020, if you follow my journey, you can literally see I was in the middle of a university tenure track position and things were going well. I was being promoted and, I felt really, really content in the job that I had. And it was a very fulfilling experience. And yet I knew that there was more that I wanted to do to expand the impact of my knowledge, right? And you may be in that place right now as well, where you have something going on, but yet there's a next level that you're not quite reaching out for because you're content. You're content in your current circumstances. Things are stable. And when I started to feel that in my heart around, is it okay for me to want more? Like, why can't I just be satisfied? I mean, I've gotten a business to run on autopilot. My music school was successfully, profitably running across the country without my involvement. I have this beautiful job with like an amazing community, great opportunity to continue professionally growing and making a difference through the work I was doing. I have a family. There was a part of me that was like, is it wrong to want more? Shouldn't I just stay put? Right. And that's internal conflict of like the old you wanting to just keep you where you're at, keep you safe, versus the new you wanting to grow into maybe there's more, right? You just don't know what it is. So back in February of 2020, I started work with a mentor and surrounding myself by other like-minded musicians. And I started to think bigger, right? Around what could I do to expand my knowledge globally versus just within the context of academia. And I shared a blog post on my website and I shared it online on my social media channels. And I just explained to my community that I was exploring the idea of sharing my knowledge online and guiding other musicians who needed some direction and strategies to build their businesses and scale their businesses and learn how to better manage their careers and put things on autopilot, building the systems that I had created through my first business experience. And it just started with just a very gentle nudge and sharing with my audience. And then 1 month later, in March of 2020, we all know what happened. The world turned upside down with COVID. I had a lecture recital that I was supposed to present at the end of March. It got canceled, and everything changed in like this, right? Like an instant. And all of a sudden, millions of musicians were completely displaced. They were completely left just out of employment opportunities. All the concert venues were shut down. The opportunities to perform were shut down. And all of a sudden, this thing I had started just toying around with in February became much more urgent. And I realized, whoa, like there's a lot of people that need this information now. There's so many musicians who are completely displaced. And I feel compelled to lean into this now a lot more intentionally. Even though I had a job, even though it didn't quite impact me, although it had a big impact in my music academy. We actually had to close operations for like 2 months, shut everything down. It was a chaos. But I felt this urgency of like stepping into a place of service, right? To help musicians around the world and lean into this with a lot more like intentionality and urgency. And again, it's that thing that when you start thinking about the shift, you start considering the shift, sometimes things happen that force you to lean into it. And that's exactly what happened to me. And all of a sudden I discovered, okay, wow, this is something that I really need to do. And I'm going to go all in. And I created a Facebook group and I started creating content and going a lot more intentionally and just trying to be of service to people. Right. And then in a few months, I launched my first offer and I was able to recruit amazing musicians who decided to take that next step and allow me to guide them into reinventing themselves. Many of them had careers, they had businesses, some of them had university jobs like I did at the time, but they just knew that there was a next level waiting for them that they didn't know how to get into. And they needed guidance and direction and repackaging themselves and reinventing themselves. Right. But that's just an example that I lived in my own way. And then just a year after, once again, I reached another breaking point where I felt this opportunity kind of waiting for me in the online space. I had seen what I was able to do during my first year as an online entrepreneur, in the sense of not only being able to expand my knowledge and impact, but also to quantum leap my income in a way that I just couldn't with a traditional salary from a university, right? So I decided I was going to let go of my job. And really at that point, though, lots of things changed in my business and things were not as initially successful as it started. And I was making changes to the program offers. I was reinventing my price point, adjusting the positioning, even the model that I developed. I was making some changes, and it took in a way a reinvention. And I only had like 3 clients in the moment that I decided to let go of my job. But yet I knew that unless I took that leap of faith and really went all in into what I was trying to build, that I was going to stay kind of cruising along between having this and having that. So I kind of forced myself to actually go all in into this process without having that full sense of security that it was going to work out. And that was back in 2021. And it's been now 4 years that I'm still like, going through this amazing entrepreneurial journey for the second time now with my second business. And there's never really a full moment of totally having figured things out. In fact, I remember when I was a university professor, my students would ask me, Dr. Claure, at which point did you feel like things were totally set and you were stable and set for life? And I remember telling them, I'll tell you when I get there. I haven't yet felt that. And it's been many, many years that I've been an online entrepreneur or an entrepreneur to begin with. So, what I'm here to share with you is, right now you may be at a point in your career where there's decisions that you're needing to make around what to let go of, around what to embrace, what to put in, what to say yes to, what to say no to. And it may be difficult sometimes for you to make those distinctions between, is it okay to lean into this uncomfortable step right now? Even if I'm going to let go of things that got me here, right? Again, whether you're wanting to find better clients, different clients, or maybe just change what you're doing, change the way you're working. Maybe you've been offering a certain program, a certain service, and now you want to expand into something else. And it feels scary to let go of what got you here. My encouragement to you is to think much long term into what is the actual vision that you want for your life. How do you see in a perfect day your hourly schedule? Like, how do you see yourself waking up? How do you see yourself taking breaks? What do you want your day to look like? And if that picture that you can create for yourself doesn't match your current day-to-day schedule, not only from a tactical and practical standpoint, but most importantly, from an emotional standpoint. If the way you feel about your schedule now, if there are things about the way you're going about your day, the things you're doing throughout your day, the people you're interacting, the people you're attracting, the people you're working with, if any aspect of your current reality feels uncomfortable and you want to change it, then it will require you taking certain steps to reinvent what you and to learn new skills, most likely to create a different level of awareness and magnetize different types of clients or any other aspect in your business. And you can only make those decisions by stepping out of your current reality and looking at what you want your future to look like, and most importantly, to feel like. And if you can tune into it from a tactical level, but also from an emotional level, meaning tuning into the emotions that it would feel for you to have what you want to have, that will help you put yourself in a frequency of clarity and conviction and courage to take the uncomfortable steps. Now, if the other scenario happens where you're thinking about making a change and it really feels wrong, like again, like that exercise where you're lifting that final repetition of the weight, but you know that if you do it one more time, you're actually going to injure yourself. Like it's not going to be good. You've lost your form, you've lost your shape, you can no longer follow the right technique. And you know that if you keep lifting that weight, you're going to end up with an injury, and then you won't be able to exercise for 2 or 3 days after that. That can happen to you in your business as well. How can you make that distinction between this is the wrong path, I should not take it because it feels wrong, and whether that means continuing to go about what you're doing? That may feel wrong. That may feel like if you keep going, it's going to cause an injury, right? And force you to reinvent yourself. Or if you're considering an option to change and that option doesn't feel good and you know that there's something else waiting for you, right? Being able to make that distinction is what's going to help you feel good about your journey, right? We all have things we want to accomplish in life, and you don't need to wait until you have accomplished those things to feel good, to feel at peace, to feel satisfied. You can feel satisfied and feel good as you are going through the process, right? As the saying goes, focus on the journey, not the destination, of course. But then along the way in the journey, there are going to be twists and turns. And how do you make those distinctions? Think much more than just short-term reward. Think long-term. What is your overall goal? Think about your vision. Think about your current reality and emotionally connect with how you feel about it. And if there are areas about your current reality that you know are not okay, then envision what it would look like to actually have those things in an aligned place. How would it feel to have those things? And let those be your anchors and guides towards being able to reinvent yourself, right? And again, these are moments of decision that you want to be able to act according to your values, according to your goals, according to your vision. And then also making sure that you don't put so much pressure on yourself to always have that knowledge and that direction. I mean, it's okay to also reach out for help and to get guidance and to get some proven experience along the way, because chances are what you're experiencing, you're not alone. Someone has gone through that in some sort of way. And there are probably paths and strategies and action steps and even mindset beliefs that you can adopt that will help make those decisions clearer. So if this is you and you're right now in a place of like indecision or trying to figure out, whether you want to proceed in one way or another, especially if you are at a point of relative success in your business and you just know that there's more waiting for you and you're not sure exactly what that would look like or even how to get there, then reach out. Obviously, we're here. We're always ready to connect with anyone in our community. And I actually have a masterclass that will potentially give you a lot of tools that will give you the strategies on how you can put your current business on autopilot and stop being that bottleneck that may be keeping things at bay, and start looking at ways to change your mindset into becoming more of a CEO, understanding the different systems that you can create in your business to start getting yourself more breathing room, giving yourself more time to think, not being caught up in the operator mindset of doing all day and not leaving any energy to actually strategize. If you don't have a schedule and a system in your business that gives you space to breathe and to strategize, you're always going to be caught up in the next production, the next thing you need to do. So I want to encourage you to check out, you can see the link below in the show notes, Musicians Profit Masterclass. And I really encourage you to join me because this is a live only masterclass where you will be able to be a part of a conversation that is geared specifically towards musician entrepreneurs, educators, creators who are in this place of growing pains, stuck in a level of success that is keeping them there and not knowing how to evolve beyond that initial milestone. So if you want to be a part of that 10% of people who are able to grow beyond what got them to this first milestone and exponentially increase your income, your time, and find that you can actually develop a new sense of identity, then join me, because in this live masterclass, I'm going to be walking you through exactly how you can shift your perspective and start applying strategies to no longer be at that breaking point in your business and instead start reinventing yourself and know how to make the right choices, even when they feel uncomfortable, even when you feel like you can't keep going, even when you're exhausted and tired and you're not sure where to go next. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you've gained some value from it. Leave us a review so that we can reach more people along the way. And I hope you can join my live masterclass, musiciansprofitmasterclass.com. Until next time, let's prosper together.